All right. Did all of my promo. Time to get to it. So yesterday, I changed the batter head on this Ludwig snare, and it sounded okay. After the stream, I was wondering why it wasn't sounding awesome. And I remember John, who was on, asked about the tuning of the bottom head. And it was way, way lower than normal. So what did I do? I tried to tune it up and the head broke. So the bottom head on this guy was shot. It was the factory bottom head. I'm surprised it lasted that long, but as soon as I put even a little bit of tension on it, it just pulled right off the flesh hoop. So that's probably why it didn't sound great. And just so happens that we have a new prototype DFD head to check out. This is a slightly thicker snare side head. I think it's 5 mil instead of 3 mil. So we'll see if it resists overstretching. Before I do that though, I'm going to make sure this batter head is properly tuned now. Now that the bottom head's off, I can actually assess really where it's at. It's a little under where I typically want it. C sharp, D. Yeah, I think that bottom head was throwing this whole drum way out of whack. Bottom heads are weird on snares for me. It's like there's like more than it's sounding bad, it's just like a sense like something's not right. Like something didn't feel right. It sounded okay. But it was literally on the verge of breaking. So that's what it was. The bottom head was not holding tension. So I'm trying to get this top head even now at C sharp, which is about 278, I believe, hertz. Right at the tension rods. This thing's all out of whack. Happy with me. There's two in particular here that are really out of balance. The thing with the bottom head for me is I don't even think about it until all of a sudden the drum just feels sick, like it's just under the weather. And 9 times out of 10 it's the bottom head. I probably could have kept the essentially destroyed batter head on this drum and changed just the bottom, and it would have brought life back to it. It just didn't feel right. So, okay. Batter head is closer to where it's supposed to be. All right, now let's put on this new bottom head and see if this workhorse comes back to life. Again, this is a prototype DFD 5 mil snare drum bottom. The 3 mil that we have is nice. I felt maybe it was overstretching a little bit prematurely. So we got some 5 mil made up to see. if it resists overstretching and also gives the response that you need. Will you switch out heads and reuse previously used heads? Almost never. Only time I reuse previously used heads is if they've barely been used and it's just a different sound. Like I took hydraulics off of my Birch kit. They have barely been touched, so I'll keep those and probably use them at some point down the road. But if I'm just changing the head for the same head, I'm usually changing it because the heads are shot and I have no purpose for them. And I don't want to keep junk around. I used to like cut them up and make dampeners and stuff, but there's so many products out there that are cheap and frankly just designed to be easier. So no, I don't do that very often anymore. I will, like if I change a head on a gig, I will throw the old head, or like right before a gig, I will throw the old head in the case just to have a backup in case something crazy happens for a while until I feel confident that the new head is sounding good and seated properly and all that. But no, I don't. I have a lot of recycled drum heads coming out of this place. But I don't change drum heads often. It's snare drum heads I go through a lot. I mean, the tom heads I might change once a year. That's usually my timeline. Like once I get through the heavy gig season for the year, I'll change the tom and bass drum heads. Snare drums probably quarterly. Yeah, I probably experimented more years ago where I would like just go out on a whim and buy whatever, coated pinstripes and use them for like a week and realize, that's not really the sound. So they're barely used and I will keep those because you never know when that might be something. But at this point, I'm almost always using single ply coated, double ply coated. So I'm not surprised. I know what I'm getting. Okay, this is finger tight, which is still really low. So I'm just going to go around, probably do 2.5 turns on the bottom here, just to bring it up evenly. So half turn all the way around. Here's the first full turn. Or 1.5. And we're at 2, starting to feel pretty tight. So I'm not quite doing half turns now. I'll do like a quarter turn more. So it's like 2 1/4, I guess, is where we're at. At this point, I'll check the pitch. So that's 2 1/4. Yeah, same snare as yesterday. It was sounding okay, but it wasn't sounding great. So after the stream, I was like, let me just check the bottom head. And as soon as I added a tiny little bit of tension to it, it just pulled off the flesh hoop. So it was ready to go. Where's this sitting? Give me an actual reading here. Bottom heads are hard to tune to pitch because there's so many overtones. F. All right. I'm going to take it up another quarter turn. That should get us right to the F sharp, hopefully. Just slightly flat. At this point, I'm just going to tighten the lugs that are not by the snare beds, just a little skosh, and that'll be good. I don't freak out about, you know, the evenly tuning the bottom head. I just get it on there, get it up to pitch. At that point, it's doing what it needs to do, which is respond to the wires. The pitch of the bottom head is not as important as the tension of the bottom head. So I very rarely go around and try to evenly tune it. I just get the whole thing up to the F sharp and move on. All right. Putting on wires is my least favorite thing in the world. I hate it because there's no perfect science to it. Just have to do your best guess and then adjust. So what I do, in this case it's got cords, so I get the cords kind of evenly length end to end. I don't know which camera showed, none of these really show a good detail, but the cord is end to end even. I pinch it so it's basically like one piece of string. Then I can weave it through the butt plate. Again, I pinch it together so it's meeting in the middle. I align the wires just inside of the bearing edge, and then I tighten down the butt plate. So the end clip is sitting, I don't know, 1/8 of an inch inside the bearing edge. That way the wires are contacting the head pretty much. They start contacting the head right about where the end of the flange on this Ludwig shell is. Probably like a 1/2 inch in. Usually works pretty good. And then tightening these things down, it's always needs to be extremely tight because these cords will slip. All right. Then I do the throw off side. I tie knots after I get it adjusted and I know it works, but for now I'm just weaving it in. Basically pull it as tight as I can. Have the throw off in the engaged position. The thumb screw is somewhere in the middle of the range, and I pull that as tight as I can, drop the drum key as always, get another drum key, try to keep tightening this awkward thing while pulling the cord, lock it in, and inevitably I'm going to have to redo that, but that's where I start. Where did that freaking key go? Love it. That's the good one too. When you want to bet, it's under the bass drum. It's where they always go. Crazy. Anyway, good thing I have this one. All right, so that's where I start. And just hit the drum and see what it sounds like. The wires are going to be too loose, guaranteed. All right, so then I just tightened up the thumb screw until it got to a point where it was feeling kind of where it needs to be. My go back through and do another round of over tightening these things. At some point, someone's got to invent a better system for this, so you don't have to freaking strip these bolts just to keep it from loosening up over time. Okay, now I'll just tie a knot, which will help keep the cord from pulling through the butt plate over time. Do the same thing on the throw-off side. This new Ludwig throw-off is pretty nice. Simple. Does the job. The thumb screw has like it clicks, which kind of helps keep it in place versus the old ones that were just a spin that would always loosen up over time. All right. So that's wide open. Somewhere, the gel that I had on there yesterday has gotten stuck to something else somewhere. That's why I hate gels. And it's on the floor. All right, so put the gel back on. Ron Danette, what about Ron? It's losing a little bit of tension, which is typical because the cord kind of has to re-stretch. I'm just going to keep tightening this sucker down. Hopefully I gave myself enough headroom with the thumb screw to kind of compensate as it gets settled. Do I like the new bottom head? No butt plate on the George Way snares. Really? I have the gold top over there. There's no butt plate? It has the tension screw on the butt plate side, right? I have to look at that. I don't remember how it attaches. I think it sounds better than it did yesterday. Maybe the thicker bottom head is removing a little bit of sensitivity. I'm gonna have to let it settle. This drum was sounding so absolutely amazing on gigs for the past 4 months that I knew it wasn't going to get back to that happy place right away. Which is why I didn't want to change the head, but I was afraid it was going to break. And probably had I not changed the batter head yesterday, the bottom head would have broke on the gig probably next weekend. So So it's a good chance for me to mess with this new thicker bottom head. It's feeling like the drum is not quite as open as it was before. Makes sense because the DFD classic coated head is thinner, has a thinner coating. So it was more open and it had a very thin bottom head. So now I've got a heavier coating on the G1 and a thicker bottom head. So it's obviously going to be a less open, kind of harmonically rich sound. Forgetting to reset. That's one downfall of those cheap mixers. It doesn't save your reverb settings. So back to the chamber. Wires are starting to loosen up again. This is the process. This is the dance. Yep, I've got to redo it. The thumb screw is pretty much maxed out. So I'm going to take the thumb screw way down. Reassess. Let's see. Good thing about this new Ludwig throw-off is the thumb screw has a locking bolt on the bottom of it, so it won't fall apart if you loosen it too far. You can actually take it all the way down. So I'm going to go like almost all the way down. Nothing worse than loosening the thumb screw and have it just disengage and the whole freaking thing falls apart. Okay. So reassess. The butt end is staying put. It's the throw-off side that needs to be pulled tighter. So we'll do that now. Definitely my least favorite drum tech task is snare wire management. Such a pain in the butt. So I'm doing the same thing as before. Just now I'm going to pull it even tighter. It also looks like the wires are twisted, so let me straighten those out. Yeah, there we go. Pinch them, pull them, tighten them. Here we go. Oh, I quit. Should probably use the, I'm gonna use the drill. Got it, sitting right here. Oh, let me mute the mic. All right, that thing should be freaking tight now. Tighten the knot, beautiful knot. All right, here we go. Survey says that drum key went right there. I don't know where my Evans key went. Ah, I see it. It's over by the ride cymbal. Super annoying. Okay, see how it sounds. So that, what I do with the wires, I think I've talked about it on here before, but I tune them up until they choke out at low volumes. It starts to get like a note, like an overtone, and then I back it off until that goes away. And that ends up being as tight as these wires should be tightened without going into some sort of specialty sound. Would I say that the Ludwig chrome over brass with tube lugs will sound as good as that one? If it's a new chrome over brass with a seamless shell, it will sound as good, if not a little bit more open than this, because you'll have less hardware on the shell, because those tube lugs only contact in little tiny spots versus this die cast. It's connecting pretty much the whole dimensions of the lug. So you might get a slightly more open tone, and the tube lugs will be more durable. These swivel nuts or sometimes strip out, or sometimes the lugs can break, whereas tube lugs almost never break. So would it sound as good as that one if it's a seamless shell? Absolutely. If it's like an import, like one of the universals or something, those are not seamless. They're rolled and welded, I believe. It's not going to be as rich a sounding as this. This is not a 70 Supra. This is a 2023 Supra chrome over brass. I cannot afford the old original pre-serial number chrome over brass. They are way too expensive. I think they're going for like over $1,000, which is insane. This is a B stock. I think I paid $350 for it, if I recall. And I mean, it sounds just as good as those old ones. So interestingly, with this head combo, I think even one of these big gels is too much, versus when I had the lighter coating with the thinner bottom head. I had to use 3 gels to kind of get it into the punchy kind of spot where I wanted it. So what I need to do is, I'll just steal one of these smaller ones from the floor tom. Let's see if this little football shaped thing, let's see. What's up, German Doc? How you been? I saw you said lighting. I thought you said lightning, meaning the Gretsch lightning throw off, which I was going to say, I don't like the lightning throw off. But yes, thank you. I'm glad you like the lighting. I've been spending a lot of time messing with how to get this place to look cool, but not overly saturated. Yeah, 1 small gel versus 3 gels with the other heads. I want to steal another small gel from the rack tom. And I'll just put the bigger one up there because Toms can handle it. Wow. So that was just adding another dime-sized gel. Limited almost all of the overtone. So what do you think? One gel or two gels? Here's one gel. Small gel. The little, this is a Winston little football sized gel. And then here's with the dime size gel added, basically the next lug over. Those two small gels are doing more than the three big gels we're doing before. Pretty crazy. My opinion, definitely give me your opinion on how it's translating through the stream, is ideally I'd go with the one gel, but I know with most of the rooms that I'm playing, the more open the snare, the more problematic, because there's just so much bright overtones in the room. So I generally start out with more dampening and then remove it maybe as the night goes on, as we kind of get acclimated to the acoustics of the room. So I'm going to leave two on there, I think, for now. Alan, bass drum deserves a mention. Thank you. I love the way this drum is sounding. It is still the DFD 22-inch single ply coated head on the batter side. Evans calf tone on the front with probably a 4.5-inch hole, off center hole. I have two of the Remo tube muffler things, which is basically like a rolled up towel. One on the batter side, one on the front side. And then I also laid just an old bath towel in between those to cover the bottom of the shell. Tuning wise, not super low. Probably about its lowest resonant pitch on the batter side, maybe a little bit higher on the front. But that's the sound. Plastic side of the beater, no impact patch, so it's wearing through the coating pretty darn good. I'm testing this head again for durability to see what it does, but this thing sounds great to me. Highly recommend experimenting with single ply coated bass drum batters if you've never done that before, and if you don't need something that's extremely durable. If you're breaking bass drum heads, I wouldn't do this, but a good beefy, punchy, classic bass drum sound, you can't beat it. 2 gels. Now I'll take 1 gel off, store it on the side. And just for the fun of it, wide open again. I mean, I like it open, but I know that that long ring is just going to be amplified when I'm playing on metal stages and these crazy rooms. So I'm going to default to 1 gel and then add It's pretty crazy how just moving the gel in closer to the center by 1/8 of an inch or whatever impacts that sustain. We'll go with that. So it is a thumb width. Well, I guess that's maybe 1 inch from the bearing edge. That's the 1 gel, 2 gels again, just to compare. I mean, I know that's going to be the move when there's a microphone on the drum and all that. So, I don't know. I think it sounded cool. What do you think? The thicker bottom head might be just sucking a little bit of vibrance out of it. That's kind of the dynamic that I play most often on gigs, kind of a medium volume. And a lot of dead center playing for most of the night. There's some shuffles. I also think the heavier bottom head is going to help in rooms that are very bright, because usually the snare response that's most annoying in brighter rooms. So if it does anything to kind of darken up the wires, that won't hurt. I think it sounded cool. I think it'll settle in, because it settled in. It took a while for it to settle in with the original head. So I'm going to leave it at that with one gel. I'm digging it. It's kind of giving me what I wanted, some bright, crispy, snappy attack with the fullness that you can only get from a quality brass, seamless brass usually. The snares are responding with some nice spread, but then they die down, so we'll see how it fares on the gig next week. So it's got a week to kind of settle in. And I'm going to hop off then. Thank you for joining me on this little journey trying to save this drum. Yesterday I was getting quite frustrated. But again, I'm glad I found the broken head before the next gig. I always take at least two snares to a gig. I mean, usually a metal drum and a wood drum. So I always have a spare. So if the bottom head would have blown out, it wouldn't have been a big deal. But it probably would have taken me a while to figure out what the heck was going on. It just would have sounded bad. So I'm glad I found it. I'm glad I found the busted head between gigs and not on the gig. So we'll check back in on this drum to see how this new bottom head fares. It's a 5 mil, slightly thicker Drum Factory Direct snare side. All right, y'all, have a good one. Tomorrow is Wednesday. I'll be back on around noon. See you then.